What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Bear Podcast. And today we want to talk about the first NFL start for Bears rookie tackle Ozzy Trapilo as he took over the left tackle spot for the injured Theo Benedet. And the Chicago Bears did it again. They won and are now at 8-3 for the season after a big win at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And before that game, the Chicago Bears declared Theo Benedet to be out for the game, which meant obviously Ozzy Trapilo took over in Week 12 and had a challenging day against a really solid defensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, for the game, real quick, as a recap, I was really happy with Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, and how he handled the injury plague for the defense with all the linebackers and secondary players being out. There's another episode dropping later this week about one specific defensive player I was really impressed with, so be ready for that. But overall, really happy how the defense came through and made a couple of crucial stops at the end and throughout the entire game, generating some turnovers. And then for the offense, I think they had an up and down day again a little bit for Caleb, but overall they put up 31 points, which should always be enough to win in the NFL, and that's what they did in the end, coming through clutch. And today we're going to look at how Ozzy Trapilo did at left tackle in his first start as a Chicago Bear in pass protection and in the run game, and also ask ourselves the question: who will start moving forward at left tackle for the Bears? Is it going to be the returning Theo Benedet, who I don't know if he's returning yet because there is no injury report as of right now as I'm recording this video, or is it going to be Ozzy Trapilo, who had a really solid day as we'll see it today? And of course, we're going to do that by looking at the All-22. As always, let the tape speak for itself and not the PFF blocking numbers, because I don't really trust those numbers anyways. So today we're going to dive deep into his game tape and analyze what he did against Pittsburgh. Before we want to do that, though, real quick, he played overall 65 snaps, had 24 run block snaps, and 41 pass block snaps against the Steelers defense, had 37 opportunities to allow a pressure, and overall for the day, Ozzy allowed one pressure in form of a hurry. And then real quick, for Theo Benedet for the year in pass protection, that is the one area he struggled with the most. He had the double amount of pressures allowed compared to Darnell Wright on the right side of the offensive line on 100 less snaps. So he had 100 less snaps than Darnell Wright, but allowed the double amount of pressures on the year. So that's going to be obviously a big talking point in today's conclusion, but we'll also talk about the run game. So with that being said, let's get straight into it and talk about Ozzy Trapilo's starting debut for the Chicago Bears. And we're going to start off the day with talking about Ozzy Trapilo's pass protection and what he was able to do against Nick Herbig, who was his main competitor in this game, one of the edge rushers for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and not a bad one at that. And in my opinion, the perfect challenge to evaluate Ozzy Trapilo's performance, because that was his biggest knock getting into the NFL, his quickness and his footwork against speed rushers, right? He's a very powerful guy, as we'll see today, but facing Nick Herbig, one of the better pass rushers in the NFL in terms of speed rushing, he's already having 6.5 sacks on the season and has showed time and time again that he can win with speed. He's a very elusive and fast guy. So like I said, a great tape opportunity to evaluate if he holds up in pass pro or not in the NFL. And I want to start off talking about his power and anchor as one of his biggest pluses. He has a very strong lower half. He's obviously very tall at 6'8", but he has showed his power and strength in this game once again. And if they tried to beat him with power, he shut that down easily with a great anchor and a good base, not letting go of you, which is really, really good. And it is really hard to move Ozzy Trapilo off of his spot with raw power. So that was good to see. And I thought he had really solid footwork overall throughout the day. And if we're talking about Herbig here specifically, he gained ground quickly for most of the time, as we'll see in today's losses that we're going to look at obviously as well. Had really solid hands, using his length to his advantage for himself. He doesn't have the longest arms, but he is longer than Nick Herbig in that aspect. And for the most part, he also held up well. Not always pretty, but good enough, and that's what we need for the left tackle spot here, protecting Caleb Williams, because that's what Theo Benedet was struggling with, even winning and just being good enough. There's a couple of games he had a big impact negatively on the Bears' pass protection. So especially for his first start, I think Ozzy Trapilo did a really good job in that aspect. And then lastly, as a pro, I want to mention his play action pass protection. No matter what they ran, play action, split zone, play action, wide zone, I formation. He had really good cells in there, selling the run, and then defended the power rushers really well with his jump sets, or had really good eyes picking up blitzes on those pass protection sets as well. So now getting into a couple of examples I want to take a closer look into before we get into some losses. The first one against Nick Herbig, where he uses one of his speed rushes here, and he has a little chip help here by Colston Loveland, but I like the feet on this rep because he gains ground quickly here with a firm base. He doesn't turn too fast, protecting his inside here, and then as Herbig approaches, he has a really good hand placement in this specific rep here with a good initial punch, and then just stomps in on this rep, showing his power late in the rep at the top of the rush, and having a good rep here against Nick Herbig here. Now next, he's facing a different pass rusher. He's playing against Jack Sawyer, the young edge rusher rookie out of Ohio State, and for Ozzy Trapilo overall, he's not going to face a guy with Herbig's speed and agility every single game. So the reasoning why I want to show you guys this rep here is, even though he has little slower of feet here, failing to fully redirect in this rep and doesn't have perfect feet and good placement, he can still win in the NFL. Because right here, he is using his solid length and lower half torque that he possesses to stand up and stonewall Sawyer here. It's a big time anchor moment where he helps him compensate some of his footwork issues. He's not fully redirecting quickly enough here, but with his power, he can compensate for it and still defend the rusher here with having a inside move on him, having the leverage even, but he does a good job of retracing and just using his power to overcompensate it. So I love this rep because it combines his pros and cons really well in one rep. And like I said, he's not going to face a guy like Herbig all the time, so he can compensate on those reps where he faces a guy that's not as agile as Herbig. And then for the last rep that we want to look at in a positive way, we're talking again a rep against Herbig specifically, who will dip and rip pass rush, speed rush here specifically, and his feet again are really solid here. The rep shows his power once again. The feet do not stop moving at the top of the rush, which is really important. And even though it is a little bit of a compressed posture here for Ozzy Trapilo and he can't win with length here, you just see the raw power again, stonewalling the defender, the edge rusher, with being straight up stronger than the other guy. And I love that about his game, and was a really big pro in his pass protection game tape. And then for the losses in pass protection, like I said, he had a great challenge against Herbig here. How can he handle the speed of this quick edge rusher? And I counted 2 true losses against Herbig in my opinion. And on both of those reps, he struggled with stopping his feet. His feet stopped moving. That's never a good sign against a speed rusher. And he was leaning in those reps and was unbalanced and couldn't just hold him back in those situations. Caleb still was able to get the ball out of his hands on both of those reps. So some losses will happen with Ozzy Trapilo against speed rushers, but he was still able to recover enough to give Caleb enough time to get rid of the ball, which is big time. And against the speed of Herbig, which you, like I said, not going to face every single week, it is okay to lose in that aspect. Just 2 times for the majority of the game, he held up really nicely though. So in my opinion, he handled it really well in pass pro, and all flaws can be worked out and be worked on. And I think Dan Roshar is an excellent offensive line coach, and he will work with Ozzy Trapilo to get rid of those flaws. And then moving on for the run blocking, this is obviously Theo's better half. Run blocking is where he excels at rather than pass protection. So another important question in how did Ozzy Trapilo look in the run game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a team with a really solid run stuffing front. So definitely a good challenge here. And first of all though, I want to say the Bears ran often away from Ozzy Trapilo. So they mainly had him on the backside, locking the backside defender and the end man at the line of scrimmage. So take that as you want. If the Bears do not trust him to make plays on play side, or if they just schemed it up that way and they wanted to slow the pass rush down by running at TJ Watt. So both possible scenarios here. But if we're looking at the plays that he was able to make in the run game, I think he looked really solid in wide zone, which is important for Ben Johnson, especially because he played with some power. Now, he didn't necessarily win over the gap, which is not great, by the way, but he played with good power and got some push down the field and did a good job of mostly locking the backside of the runs as well in the run game. So I liked him in wide zone, but a couple of times he didn't get there quickly enough with his feet to win over the gap. And let's get into a couple of examples here, even though he didn't have too many reps in the run game, true reps that we can look at. But the Bears right here run wide zone, and Ozzy has a reach block to the 3 technique here, which is number 95, Keanu Benton. And obviously the defensive tackle here has inside leverage, so it's not an easy block to make for a tackle. And Ozzy needs to win over the B gap here on the backside. And if you cannot win over by reaching, why not just completely run over the guy to the ground? I think that's a solid solution if you can't win it over. This rep just shows his raw power that he possesses once again, and is a good finish by him here on this rep. Not pretty, but he just bullied a guy to the ground, so I cannot be mad at him at all for this rep. And then for the last play that we want to look at today, this time a very cool design by Ben Johnson too. The Bears bring in Luke Newman, number 65, the rookie guard, and bring him into I formation as the fullback as they run a draw play here. So they got Luther Burden out wide, and to the Bears right, they're faking a quick screen. And then the Bears run draw off of that. And for the blocking in this play, you got Olamide Zaccheaus actually motioning, and you can't see him yet on the screen, and inserting and blocking the strong safety who is walked down here into the box. And that's Jalen Ramsey right here. You got a base block on the Sam linebacker by Cole Kmet. You got a double team with Ozzy Trapilo and Luke Newman on the 4-eye to the Mike linebacker. You got a double team by Drew Dahlman and Joe Tooney on the 0 technique to the plugger here. And then on the front side, backside of this run, you have Jonah Jackson and Darnell Wright basically pass protecting against the 4-eye and the will linebacker, which is TJ Watt. So they're selling pass, and all of the other guys are actually blocking. And for Ozzy Trapilo here, straight up, I just like the push on the double team with Luke Newman. 2 rookies uniting here and getting some good push against the defensive lineman. Now the Steelers are really pinching the defensive line here together, so there's not too much room for Kyle Monangai to run it straight inside in between the tackles. But the rest is just great stuff by Kyle Monangai as he shows some good vision here and patience as he bounces it outside in between the right guard and the center. And obviously they're pass protecting, so there's a huge hole that opened up for him, and a nice little gain here on a cool design by Ben Johnson and a good execution by the Bears offense here on that play. So for the conclusion of today's video, how did Ozzy Trapilo look? And pass protection. Overall, he showed great power and anchor. He didn't lose a lot. He had only 2 losses, and those are, in my opinion, due to his lack of consistency with his feet. So he cannot stop early. He did that a couple of times, and that's why he lost, but that's something he can work on. For the majority of the game, though, he had really solid feet in pass pro against his archetype that he struggles with the most in pass rush situations, a speed rusher. So he had a great opportunity, and he delivered, only allowing 1 true pressure on the stat sheet, and that also was backed up on the game tape with only 2 losses on the day. In my opinion, he handled the first challenge really well, and he can defend power. We know that. So overall, he should be good to go in pass protection. Now for his run blocking performance, I think he was solid overall with a limited amount of true reps where he could have even showed what he can do in the run game. So I hope he gets more reps moving forward, and I think he needs more reps and more refinement overall in the run game to be a better overall tackle for the Chicago Bears. So for the most important question of today's video, who should start moving forward, Theo Benedet or Ozzy Trapilo? Now, first of all, the Eagles game is coming up. We have a very short week. The Bears play on Black Friday on Friday, So I don't know if Theo Benedet is even available for this game against the Eagles. There hasn't been an injury report yet by the time of my recording here. So maybe by the time this video drops for you guys, you may have more information, or we have more information. So it might be Ozzy automatically, but for the rest of the season or for the rest of the year, this is obviously a big question overall. And that's going to be a big thing for Ben Johnson and the coaching staff to figure out. Now in pass protection, I do personally prefer Ozzy Trapilo. In the run game, I do prefer Theo Benedet right now, but as I said, Ozzy Trapilo doesn't have a lot of true reps in the run game anyway so far, so it's tough to truly evaluate him at that. But Ozzy's limited run blocking reps looked solid enough for me to say we take the extra protection for Caleb Williams and let him start moving forward, but that's just my opinion. So overall, I just want to say I think it's a great problem to have for the Chicago Bears. Both are physically really gifted, both will be solid and add value to the Chicago Bears offense. So for me, like I said, I would love to see Ozzy Trapilo get more reps against Philly, more background to evaluate both for me. So for me, it's Ozzy right now, but will be interesting to follow along for the next couple of weeks what the Chicago Bears finally decide to do. Do they want the guy with running game upside or pass protection upside? Even though, like I said, we haven't seen too much for Ozzy in the run game yet. So with that being said, guys, I was really impressed with Ozzy Trapilo's first start for the Chicago Bears, and it was so much fun breaking down his tape. And that's the end of today's video. So I would really appreciate you guys if you leave a like and a comment in the comment section down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's completely free, but supports me in a lot of ways. And with that being said, I see you guys in another video later this week, again talking about a big impact performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And until then, guys, and as always, bear down.